Hello, everyone. My name is Jerry Wise, and I'm a life and relationship coach. I've been helping people for many decades with self-differentiation, overcoming codependency, and other kinds of adult children issues. And I want to mention there's a workshop coming up on December 5th, 2020 on Saturday. I hope you'll sign up for that workshop. Go to the website under events, and you can sign up for that. Please join this and subscribe to this YouTube channel, and also join as a paid member. $1.99 helps us to provide these free videos to you. I'm very happy to have as a guest with me my associate, Yitz Goldberg. And we are continuing our series on the principles of self-differentiation. Hi, Yitz.
Hey, Jerry. I'm happy to be here again.
Great. Would you like to jump into this principle?
Sure. Yeah.
I think it's number 7, if I'm not mistaken.
Today is number 7. Yeah. And this principle is called differentiation, is being clear about one's own personal values and boundaries. And when I think about this principle, the values and boundaries are two ends of self-differentiation. It's where you start, it's what's real for you inside, and what you communicate to people or to your family, to your friends, to your relationships, to the people around you. So yeah, this is a very interesting principle.
Well, and I think it's so important because it is self-differentiation, or maturity is a very self-defining work. And since it's a self-defining work, that means we have to define ourselves. You know, what do I believe? What do I value? What's important to me? Do I believe the earth is flat, or do I believe it's round? You know, because that will guide my life, depending upon what I believe. And then what do I do in the face of believing the earth is flat, but everyone else believes it's round? What am I going to do with that? You know, and how am I going to carry myself? And because I think so many times we think that when we become more mature, we then become correct or right about everything. Well, no, we can still be wrong about some things. But I like Adrian Van Kaam, who is a psychologist priest. And he did this wonderful series, and I used to love these books. They're not easy to read, but they are very insightful, integrating spirituality and psychology. And he talks and that was kind of one of my first introductions to kind of growing up or maturing, before I got into Murray Bowen family theory. And he said, one thing that adults do is that they begin to give up staying in the no man's land of no commitment.
I like that.
In other words, as adults, we start committing to something, even if it may not be perfect, even if it could be wrong, but we don't stay in the area of just no commitment about anything because I don't know for sure. You know, well, we start by, well, what do we believe about that? It doesn't mean I can't grow or learn more. And I also had another professor talked about an educated and mature individual will hold loosely onto the things that they believe. You hold not too tightly. And what he meant by that is you may learn something more that may change how you see something. But he says you still hold on to them, but you be careful about how tightly you hold on to them, Because there again, if I hold on to the tightly to that the world is flat and I don't take in the other data, then I may believe the world is flat until I die. And that may be holding on to that belief too tightly. I may begin to learn about, as they send back pictures from space and show the world is round, I'm going, oh, well, maybe the world isn't flat.
Yeah. Yeah. And very often the values that we are committed to, because I think a lot of people are committed to certain values, a lot of times the values we're committed to, they're not ours. We were raised into them. We didn't give it any extra thought. We didn't, obviously we do some type of research growing up, but very often we never really question those values. And for me, this principle is allowing yourself to question your values, to question the values of your family, to question the values of your society, and trying to find what you could commit to, but that's yours and that's not theirs. And that is, it's not easy, because very often someone could come up or stand for something that's not popular, stand for something that's very different than what other people would stand for. But that is what this work is about, is standing for it because you believe that that's what you're supposed to stand for, and you don't, it doesn't matter what other people believe in or what other people
Right.
want you to believe in.
Correct. And that is a powerful statement about, and I think of using a self filter on family beliefs and family values, that I want to use a self filter about that. Are these my beliefs or are they not? I can believe something my family taught me and not be differentiated. I can believe something my family taught me and be self differentiated, because not only might I have different beliefs, but I may accept some of the beliefs my family did teach me, and they are mine. I do accept that, and so that, but I don't accept beliefs that keep me in a particular role. And so my family may have valued being kind to other people. Well, I'm not going to go, well, I'm going to be self-differentiated, so I'm going to believe don't be kind to other people. No. But if I'm being kind to other people in the same way my family was doing it, now I'm more enmeshed with them and it's not my value. Maybe we're doing it to keep an image. Maybe we're doing it to earn our way to heaven. Maybe we're doing it, and so there may be some similar values we have, but am I still running it through the self filter? It's got to all go through my self filter. Is this Jerry, or is this just Jerry with groupthink or society think, or whatever think I might be connected to?
Yeah. I in other words, I could not believe the same values, but I could still be undifferentiated doing that. I could believe something different, but I will still be undifferentiated.
So it could go either way. I could believe something that the family believes and be undifferentiated or differentiated. I could not believe what the family believes and be undifferentiated or not differentiated, or differentiated. And the issue becomes, is this me? Is this mine? Have I sent it through that filter and it really is my belief? And for many of us, that's where a lot of the struggles come in with family of origin issues, particularly when we become adults, where now we have the challenge of beliefs and we go through a second adolescence. The first adolescence is we're trying to have, the solid family that we push off or push away from to become ourselves. But then as we become adults, we have another opportunity to do that, because then there are expectations of us as adults. not as teenagers, but how you're supposed to function in the family as an adult now. Well, we may need to push off of that as well. That and then we'll talk about some of the troubles of doing that in later principles,
Yeah.
when we define ourselves.
Yeah. When I think of defining our values, so I, I think about also the aloneness that comes with it, and often you talk about aloneness versus loneliness, and to define your values often means you're going to be standing alone. But when you understand that you're allowed to have different values and others are allowed to have different values than you have, then you don't necessarily feel lonely in that position.
Ooh, well said. Very well said. That is a great point. And that's you're right. And that's where that self connecting with ourselves has a paradoxical way of us not feeling alone and being able to also, in some ways, connect with others too. Because if I never declare myself, if I never have values, if I don't know what I believe, who I am, and what I think, if I'm just a product of my family of origin and its thinking, if that's all I am, then I'm only going to be comfortable pretty much relating, connecting to my family or people who are like that. If I'm defining myself, I may find new people whom value my values, and I value their
and
values.
be okay and be okay with people that have different values
And
without it needing some disconnection there.
right, can I connect with someone that we have differing values? Can
Yeah.
I accept and connect with someone, or differing beliefs or differing principles? Um, I mean, that's what we hope will happen on a political level in each of our countries, that good people will disagree. And that's a very tricky dynamic, as we have seen over the hundreds of years.
Yeah.
That's a tough one.
Yeah. And it's also good to remember that often people's values could be immature values. So, well, also our
Right.
own values could often be immature, but when I'm thinking, you mentioned the political situation and how often we could see other people's choices as being immature, regardless if they are immature or not.
Right.
But people are allowed to have immature values, and I have no right to take that away from them. Same like they have no right to take my values away from me.
Yeah, but yet they're just wrong.
That's true. They are wrong.
Shouldn't I do something about that?
They are wrong, but they are allowed to be wrong.
Right. And it also, I think, takes responsibility and owns the fact that, not maybe every one of my values and beliefs are all correct. There may be some wrong ones in there or immature ones. And I hope someone is accepting of me as well in my wrongness. And I've certainly been wrong before. And we really care about those people who have winked at us and winked at our immaturity,
Yeah.
and didn't shame us and guilt us and say, that's so stupid that you believe that. And sometimes families will do that. But it's more mature if we can accept others and their beliefs, right or wrong. But we're also accepting our limitations at the same time. Um, I think self and those values and boundaries evolve from womb to adult. It's a lifetime of learning these things. You don't just wake up tomorrow and have all of your beliefs, values, principles all just lined out. Uh, but I think it is an intentional work that is good for us to do. When I come into conflict with my family, my spouse, my children, my whomever, friends, do I take that moment and look at, well, what do I believe? What is my belief? What are my principles? What do I value? And I had an example, um, and why I think values are so important, because when you read about Bowen family systems, there's a lot of talk about values and principles lead us away from blame. And a lot of times people don't, I didn't understand that. What do you mean values lead you away from blame? Shoot, if I had more values, I'd blame more people for what they're, that's kind of the logical, and no, it actually leads us away from blame, because when we focus on our values, our principles, then we allow them to be a separate person and we don't have to blame them. And we're also able to more freely look at our feedback loop and our part in the feedback loop. I had a client, let's call him Bill, had a very, very enmeshed family, very hyper religious, very enmeshed. He's been working to detach and become a self, versus being just the domino in his family. And just be there. And I mean, this family is incredibly enmeshed. Every week, every month, everything they do is family, 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 everything. And you are to attend. He's an adult, he's divorced, he has two children, two younger children. And they assume that all family members attend all family weekly and monthly gatherings, and then some additional Bible studies on Zoom as well. So it's really just, it has driven him nuts since he was a kid, to the point he couldn't have friends. There was nothing you could do outside the family. There's just nothing outside the family was supported. And of course, as he detaches, they pursue relentlessly, to get him back and come back in the family. And I think that's where values versus blame, and having differences versus anger and upsetness. Because if we don't have our own values, if we don't see our own differences, then we'll only be left with blame, anger, and upsetness. See what they're doing to me? Why don't they stop? When are they going to grow up? When are they going to get healthy? Rah, 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 rah. That's not somebody who has seen their own values and principles. If someone has their own values and principles, says, I don't choose to do this. You may choose to continue to do that. I don't need to change you, but I am not going to change that.
Their boundaries are clear.
Correct. Right. And there's more detachment. And so I don't have to blame them for how miserable they're making me, rather than respecting, what do I value? What do I believe? What kind of relationship do I want to have with the family? Not what does the family expect and require me to do.
And about what boundaries am I setting or not setting with those people. It's a self-differentiation journey. There's the reason why the word self is there. If we take out the word self, then we're left with differentiation, and then maybe we could force differentiation in other people. But it's self-differentiation, it's self-regulation, it's self-definition. It's about us, not about the other people that we're communicating with. It's about our ability to set those boundaries. It's our ability to understand our own values, to communicate them. It's about us. It's not about them.
And I think in the next principle, I'll probably continue on with that example, because I think it's also illustrative of the next principle we're going to be talking about. And I'm hoping that will that example from that family will give us some more clarity about self-differentiation. But again, values, beliefs, convictions, principles does a lot to differentiate ourselves, disconnect ourselves in a healthy way, and reduces blaming, anger, and that feedback loop that we have in that relationship of fusion and enmeshment or whatever. And again, we're fighting back. If you know where you stand, you don't have to fight back, because if I can use that analogy, that doesn't mean we don't fight back sometimes in inappropriate ways, but you know where you stand, then you don't have to push everyone away. You then begin to live your life, set boundaries where they're not pushing you. That's and I want them to not be pushing me. And this family was pretty relentless, or unrelenting, or whatever the word is. They just continued and continued in every kind of way to make this happen. And it can be very maddening.
Yeah, there are definitely families that that force the family values on the system and don't allow any form of being an individual inside the system. And then it's the struggle of finding our own values and creating our own values and questioning the system values, and while we're questioning, dealing with the anxiety and the tension that comes up from the system.
And and I think and it becomes a really huge struggle of differentiation at that point. But it's a worthwhile goal to work on that, because it's miserable to stay in it. It can be difficult or painful to continue to differentiate. I just figure if I'm going to be uncomfortable, I might as well be heading towards a positive goal than just stay in the discomfort of the groupthink or the pressure of the enmeshment that we have as a family, that I must do all these things. And then I'm resentful and mad, and and again, I will blame others. And again, so many times we blame others for what we are unwilling to stop. If that makes sense.
That's more than often the hard truth.
that we blame others for what we are unwilling to make stop. And we keep thinking, well, they should know to not do this. Well, whether they know to not do this or not, you're still responsible for, I don't want to do that, and put a period on the end of it. That's still our job. Their job, in their subjectivity, in their way of thinking, is to keep the family system going as it always has. Your job is to, out of that system, rise as a phoenix and become yourself, in spite of, and in opposition to the system, or at least in differentiation to the system. Maybe that's a better word. That we can be different.
Yeah. We should be different.
Yes, because we all are uniquely. And some families, a few of them, value that uniqueness, and some families don't. Some families see that uniqueness as a threat and fearful, because they have certain values of the way they think things should be.
Yeah.
Anything else you want to share about this today, Yitz?
Yes, I have two things. The first is actually a quote of you from before this call that says, it's out of our values that our boundaries come, you need some values to determine boundaries. And I just didn't want to let that slip through, because there's a lot of insight into that. And the other thing that I would like to close up, I guess, this principle is, when we have our own values and they are really ours, like meaning we've done the work of owning those values and standing for them, then we don't need others to understand, to agree, to accept those values. We don't need to force our values on other people. They're ours. Other people could choose differently and value other things. We need, it's about allowing others have values and opinions that we don't agree with. That is sometimes something that could be hard. We could believe in something, and yet we don't understand how someone could have a value that doesn't go with ours. And it's what you stand for is not what others stand for. And I think that's just understanding as a basic, just as the basics of determining your own values and letting other people determine their own, is understanding that values is not about everyone agreeing to the same thing. It's about you believing what you believe in, and that's the end.
And then there's one last paradoxical part of that. If you want other people to change their values and beliefs, believe yours. Because then we're not actively trying to change them. We are being ourselves in the system with our values. That sends ripples through the system. But I'm not doing it to change other people's values. It's that intentional paradoxical work that when I am more myself, other people have room to become more themselves. When I become more connected to what I believe is true, other people have room in the system and space to become more aware of the truth or reality or whatever I believe is important. And that's I think, a positive thing. Well, thank you for sharing.
But probably shouldn't be the goal.
No. That's could be a
byproduct,
side effect, a byproduct, which I tell everyone. Because we oftentimes make that the goal. The neat thing about it is if you stop making it the goal, it can be a byproduct. That's the point. That's the point.
Yeah.
Great. Thank you, Yitz. I want to thank you all for joining us today. We've got another principle we're going to be talking about, and I hope you'll watch that video as well. This one is video 7 of the principles, and I hope you will join the YouTube channel. Click join, become a member for a small amount each month, helps support the videos that we do. And I want to thank Yitz for joining me today, and
thank you for having me.
I hope you guys have a great day and be wise.